This
told me
conference will
outside
now
the
be
door, and I
recorded.
opened that side door and I'm like, I need to talk to you. He's like, yeah.
Probably made him pee his pants.
I love to do it though, because he will. He'll go all the way around the parking lot. It's. How are you? I'm doing good. How are you? Doing well, thanks. I got to meet your dad. Yeah, I heard. Yeah, very sweet guy. Yeah, I'll keep. Just put. You gonna put my address or? No. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. 4:30. Would you like to do roll call?
Counselor Halverson,
Here.
Counselor Best,
Here.
Counselor Foster, Counselor Sanchez.
Yes,
We have a quorum, man.
Okay, so I take a motion to approve the agenda, the minutes, maybe at the same time.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda and the minutes for November 21st, 2021, and the approval of the minutes for October 18th, 2022.
Sabina, you want a second?
yes,
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
I guess there's no discussion.
Nope.
Okay, motion passes. Can we have one regular item?
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. I knew that.
Madam Chair, councilors, I have 3 properties. Present for this public safety. I have 711 South Michigan. You should have pictures in the packet. 519 East Third. It's a house that's burnt. And 319 East Sixth. I know this property well. I've dealt with these people, both the owners on this property are both deceased. The son lives there. I had the gentleman in court last year, and believe it or not, he had cleaned the whole property up. And PD called us to go to this property on a call and found a lot of stolen property there. And I have not received any answer back either from any of the 3 properties.
Is he out? He's not in jail?
Last time I heard he was
He was out?
in jail. Well, he had a warrant.
Any discussion on this?
No, do you want to ask Christina since she's up there?
Christina, did you want to talk about any of these condemnations? Do you have the pictures? Can you see them?
No, I don't think so.
Yes, Juliana. No, actually, those are all public safety hazards, and I don't have any concern regarding the movement forward on condemnation for those.
Make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to consider the resolution 22XX condemnations.
aye,
All right, any discussion?
Regular agenda.
Let's go to consent agenda. I'm sorry. Brain needs to work up.
All those in favor to move the condemnations to resolution 22XX to the consent agenda?
Aye.
aye,
Aye. Okay, moving on, the non-action items, traffic study result. Nahar.
Madam Chairman, as requested earlier this year, I did a study at 19th and Garden. And I used the manual uniform traffic control devices, which is the thing on the slide or page 1 of the handout. And you can see we look at it for the warrants, 8-hour volumes, peak hour volumes, pedestrian volumes, road crossing, crash experience, intersections near a grade, which would be a railroad. As you look on page 2, you have the PowerPoint, Mike? Go to the map. So you can see where we had the counters in all 4 directions of the intersection of 19th and Garden. And
If you look page 3, the next page, these are what we got from when we put the tubes on the ground. As you can see, the volumes in each direction is roughly 4,000 on the garden side and 2,500 vehicles a day or so on the 19th side. But you can see the summaries for each counter, direction. The whole report's about 40 pages because it has hour by hour. But as you look at it, the northbound lane on Garden was probably had the fastest speed limit or the average speed limit at 39. That was the average speed limit. So looking at the speed and what I experienced around town, and police chief knows that we have a speeding problem all over town, not just in this quadrant. I didn't see anything that was any worse than anywhere else. And then we looked at the accident reports, which next page. In the 3-year period, they did have 18 accidents, which meets the warrant for a traffic light. But as I look at these, they're all driver inattention. And as you look at the dates, we go months without accidents happening at the same time. So based on the warrant, we already have a 4-lane stop, 4-way stop, or all stop condition. The next upgrade as far as traffic control would be a traffic light. If you go back to the map. Based on, it'd be over 600,000 without buying right away or design costs. But if you're gonna put in a traffic light, engineering and forget to tell you that you're gonna go ahead and start putting in the turning lanes and everything else, it's okay here. But when I try to improve this intersection over here, I'll need right of way take people's property to make it wider. But at this point in time, I'm not recommending a traffic light. What I do want to do is go ahead and put rumble strips.
I've already done that, Louis.
Well,
I've already done that and they're not there anymore.
we're gonna re-put the rumble strips.
You're gonna do the ones that you drill down into the pavement?
No, we can put the ones that we glue up on top.
That's what they did already in the, they don't last.
I'm gonna do it again, try it again. But other than that, a traffic light's the next thing and we don't have the budget for it and I'm not recommending a traffic light. Because I have more intersections with more volume and more needs and of course council can always change my mind. But what was the cost that I had there? 650 or something? My abstract.
So how many accidents you say in a year there?
18 in 3 years.
You had a fatality already.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, the fatality was outside the range. This is from July 2019.
most of our accidents aren't a result of engineering or anything, they're the results of inattention or people acting foolish. But I mean, something more than what we have, obviously, I'm gonna be in favor. Because I think that's too many.
Well, yeah, I mean, rumble strips is the only thing physical that I can do that's within a budget.
What about putting up those flashing lights, stop sign ahead? too?
Yeah, I was thinking something over there.
We've had those before on the north and the south. They didn't put them east and west. They did them north and
Who is
south.
she? Who is she?
Oh, I'm sorry. You got to introduce yourself and your address. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
If you can introduce yourself and your address. No, I
I'm
forgot.
Becca Melton. I live at 521 East 19th. I'm on the corner at 19th and Garden. And I've been there for 30 years. I'm quite familiar with this intersection. I'm willing to give up part of my corner. The other 2 corners are city, across from the city, which is the Woolwell area, the soccer field.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Across from that is open field.
What about that home across from you?
What about the home across that? That you're gonna have to take part of his property, but I don't see any problem with his house. It's gonna be just yard.
Okay.
Well,
the cost of,
northeast.
yeah, the cost that I have on my abstract, it's construction cost only. And then you have the right of way costs and then design costs. So we would be closer to probably $700,000.
This is the
The study that y'all did from 2011, can you, real quick, you know how to look at that and read it real quick? What's there a big difference between your recent study and that one?
The speed up, the same stuff.
Well, the traffic has increased.
Yeah, how much has the
Well, the traffic is almost doubled according to these numbers.
traffic's doubled since that?
Mhm.
Yeah, because what I see here is fail to stop, fail to stop.
Your officers are wonderful. And the sheriffs are always out there.
So you're seeing a lot of police presence and people are still,
They've done a great job.
because all these accidents fail to stop. People.
Well, and that's what I was thinking with the rumble strips. They're obviously not paying attention to signs, which hardly anybody does. And you can put the battery powered lights and stuff, but typically they fade out. You know what happens?
I know that we had
Yeah, so-
before, with, the streetlights affecting the, solar power to the lights. We had that problem before.
Yeah, Garden traffic and 19th traffic from 2011 has almost doubled.
And they did do the extra, streetlight. So we have them on the north, inside, and east and west. And that did help when they did that extra streetlight.
But my recommendation again is just, with the rumble strips that they're gonna wear out. They either do wear out, or when I put them on Garden Street further north, and when I put them on Moore Street, the neighbors all wanted them. As soon as I put them up, they complained they were too noisy.
What about digging down?
Yeah,
Those,
that's what I.
the ones digging down.
The ones the mill out.
Yeah. That way they're not gonna, other than fill up.
Well, they fill up.
And like a cattle guard, they just fill up.
Well, that's basically what I was gonna put was go back to the map.
But if you do the rumble strips and the lights that flash and
Well,
stop.
I can do both, but I don't know how much the lights are. You see, I was putting like two sets all the way across. I have to put them all the way across. If I don't, people go around, going to the other lane.
Well, the mill out's less expensive than the actual rumble strips, right?
Well, it's less hard on your emergency vehicles too. And Garden and 19th are major thoroughfares for all of our emergency.
The rumble strip, you gotta do them when the pavement's fresh.
Oh,
Then you indent them that way.
and we don't know when that's scheduled to be.
Well,
You can't heat it up? Just saying.
well, yeah, but that's,
That, you gotta go down.
the heater recycle can do.
Well, just for expediency then, the mill out's about.
Well, it's fancy if you put down the rumble strip.
But you said you have to do when the pavement's correct.
No, that's
No.
not.
The dig out.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Stick-ons.
Okay.
There's the stick-ons and there's the ones that you indent.
Okay. So event ones you have to do it.
Yeah, but see, if I do any paving, and this is on the list to get paid next year sometime, when I pave it, I can do the indentions.
Would the humps, if you did 4 humps like they do in Ruidoso where it shakes the whole car and does the whole thing instead of just a fast one where it just does a quick thing to the tire, but you do the humps where they,
What we do.
Especially your low
we do
rider.
like At least 2 per application, and then we'll do another set too, so you
You get
get
twice.
the humpity hump. Okay.
a humpity hump? Okay.
So again, yeah, just wake people up. And then I'll look at the solar lights again, but for the battery power, they just fade out.
So for expediency, we do the rumble strip, the stick-ons, hopefully the lights. And then when you repave the road, you can do the indent.
Well, we should maybe right with the rumble sticks because it's an attention, it's not a speed issue. They're not flying. It's the same thing we're dealing with all over the city. These people are buried in their phones and they're just, while they're looking down at their phone, they're covering 100 feet. So, and that's the issue.
Yeah, and if I'm gonna put 2 sets of rumble strips closer and a little bit further back, you're gonna get it twice.
And the traffic is increasing on those roads because the traffic down the main drag. As it has increased so much that people are using those roadways to get around. They're not.
You put it on my.
Yeah, it'll be all 4 directions, but $1,000 in each direction. The other thing is, I have been over there during rush hours, and the volumes do increase during rush hour, but if you've ever driven on it, you don't wait any longer trying to cross the 4-way stop as you would at a light. Got some lights, you might even wait longer. And that's another thing we do with the warrant study, that you look at the time delays. So I mean, just right now, I understand a traffic light would be the best, but I don't see council giving me $700,000.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get that through finance.
Was I just sitting at my house watching the flow of traffic, you would have better flow as far as people stopping, going, you would have a better flow. If the.
Well, That's your opinion. That's your opinion. I'm just
I've
saying
noticed,
that because we have the what we call the battery, the traffic. And even now, you can see they're so far apart, those lights at Country Club and 19th, if you were to put them in, they're not going to be synced.
Okay.
They're not going to be synced. So like the one at Country Club and by Goddard, the main traffic flow is for Goddard. So when somebody comes on Country Club, they'll switch it off. But you can see from your house, you can see when the light turns green north of you, because you'll get a little battery of people coming down, and then it'll slow down. But two, they're too far apart to be synced, because when you sync them to the speed limit or close to the speed limit,
nobody's seen them.
and nobody's gonna be doing the speed limit. It's just like everybody complains about Main Street, that they're not synced. They're synced. The DOT did the study. And we're going by the DOT, but that's based on the study and.
So when do you think you can get the rumble strips in?
We already looking at them.
Okay. So I'm wondering, in a year from now, when you repave it, it'd be interesting to see the number of accidents we have with the rumble strips.
Well, but I mean,
Now.
I see what you're saying, but if you look at the dates, we went almost 6 months, 7 months without an accident.
You're talking about recently?
Yeah, the 22. Yeah.
Yeah, so people, yeah.
And that's why I'm saying the rumble strips are simple, the least expensive, and it's proactive.
Okay.
Maybe we should take an extra light rack that we don't have attached to our parents, put it on our fence over there instead of flat.
Remember the old inflatable tanks that the army used?
Yeah, go put an inflatable police car.
Well, they used to use, we've used in the past on the DOT, police vehicles that aren't in service, parking near the intersection.
There's a town like up by Silver City, they just park a police car there when you go into town. It's just always there forever.
And switch it out with the phone. Occupy a vehicle.
Yeah, they look like there's a body in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do that in Texas.
Yeah. Okay.
So I stand for any other questions?
Any questions, any comments?
We'll get them ordered and put in.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, non-action item, the discussion of condemnation.
Madam Chair, I've included in the packet on page 17 that our current chapter 16 of the city code, that code enforcement just put staff, there's a conversation. We wanted to get it on and at least start having the conversation on the condemnations and if there's some other things we should be looking at or pursuing. So I know Hess is here. He's looked into maybe a couple things. Kevin here, Toby, so we'll be glad to, maybe it'd be best if I started this with some of the information that you pulled up. That Hess?
Yeah, happy. Good up here. I'm gonna get behind you, but you definitely don't cover all of me for the camera. So the doctor said, you're overweight. And I said, well, I want a second opinion. And he goes, well, red's not your color. Oh, man, just brutal. Not my week. All right. So I guess what I was kind of tasked with looking at was, is there a way we can, without tearing down as many buildings, still accomplish our public safety aim regarding dilapidated and unsafe buildings? And the short answer is yes, but the longer answer is it still takes more time than we'd probably like. And there's historic reasons for this. Primarily, the Metropolitan Redevelopment Code used to allow us to tear down houses and go and just turn for the purpose of turning it around and getting them resold for redevelopment. That power was stripped from us a few years ago. It happened to every municipality in the state. So effectively, what's going on right now is we can either follow the building code procedure for closing a building up, which is what we currently do. We also have something through 33-46-3, and I can provide you with that through email if it's a bit long. But our city code in chapter 16 is the enabling ordinance of the state statute 346-3. Now, this allows us to do a couple things but simply put, we can give notice through a complaint to an owner and people of record. They have 10 to 30 days to respond, depending on however long the next council meeting is. From there would be a hearing, evidence would be taken by the council, and the council can then design a remedy based on the facts that it determines. The remedy could be something as simple as, hey, this house has really great bones. This building owner, you're ordered to begin fixing this house in X number of days. If the building owner doesn't comply with what the council does, the council can then have the city go execute its decision, or alternatively, just board up the place. Once it's boarded up, a municipal lien can be slapped on. And in the case that what I understand is our biggest issue is a building with genuinely no owners that we can find, what we would do is a different provision of the state code called 30-36-3, which is referred to as a foreclosure in rem. In rem, I don't know if you've heard of that phrase. In rem means against the property itself. So normally in a lawsuit, you actually have to sue somebody, right? In rem, and for law enforcement, you can do in rem against for forfeitures. So in rem means you actually sue the property. So if we have no true owner, we can proceed against 1234 Maple Street and say 1234 Maple Street, there's no owner. You've been put on notice as a building, and we do a proper notice procedure. It usually involves the newspaper. It goes to the court, and that will activate. There'll be a judgment for us, and then it is our property. However, within that, if a true owner comes forward within a year and they satisfy the lien, they get their property back. If they don't come forward, though, we have owned it retroactively since the beginning. So that would be the quickest, that's the, legally speaking, the cleanest way we can start.
What if they come forward, but they don't make improvements to it?
Then they fail to comply with the order, and we're back to the lien situation. And then we wouldn't proceed. So if you guys didn't hear the question, so what happens if they come forward? If they come forward, great, you got X number of days to comply with the council's order. If you do not, the city can come in, comply with the council's order for that person, put the lien on, and then we proceed to close the lien in the same way that we would against a known entity. And there's a separate statute for that. This is not a ton different than what we're doing now, except we're front-ending all the legal work. And that way we avoid all the demos and all the tipping fee issues. Now that this is where it is significantly cheaper doing it this way, but legal at this point is not equipped to handle this. So foreclosures are a technical process that need to be observed over time and monitored and filed repeatedly, given the number of problem buildings we have. So legal could do this. It would absolutely be cheaper long-term, and I'd be happy to write up a cost analysis, but we'd need another lawyer up front who's specializing in property. And this would also be helpful too, because if we had a property lawyer, somebody dealing with a lot of the leases too, because we have some specialty leases that can be difficult, and I'm sure Todd wouldn't mind working with somebody other than Dr. Me every now and then. Don't smile too big. That would be, and so I'm, like I said, last I spoke with sanitation, I believe it was something like 2 million in tipping fees over 6 years. So a lawyer would cost less than half of that.
I was going to say, hiring a lawyer.
Hiring a lawyer would be significantly cheaper than the tipping fees plus the demo fee. Now, some of these properties we are going to have the demo. However, we'll own the title outright before we do that, and we can immediately turn it around. Or we could even sell the property to an owner who wants to demo it himself. And see how he salvages. But once we get title for the right reason, then we just have a lot more play with how we want to resolve the situation.
Madam Chair, I got a question. So did I understand you correctly that there's a year in there that we basically, it would be held in abeyance for a year before?
There's a year if we proceed against the property. So, I'm sorry, let me explain a little better. Thank you for the question. we have three types. We have properties where the owner just doesn't care and is there and they're kind of being difficult about it. Those, my understanding, aren't particularly frequent. Then we know the owners, but it might be mom died 15 years ago. They live in California and Texas. They really don't want anything to do with the property, so they're not going to touch it. And then we have somebody died there and we have no idea who owns it. They're intestate. It's no kids. So in rem is the best way to go when we truly don't know the owner. And then doing it code way, I think, is probably the best way to proceed when we have an owner and we know we can work with them, because that gives us the most time to go back and forth. Then the second way is we can call the kids up and say, hey, there's this proceeding against your house. This is what's wrong with it. Do you want to contest it? They say no. Then the council gets to decide what the remedy would be.
So for that year's period that is held in,
It's functional. Well, it's not held in, we still own it, but if they came back, we run the risk.
we, for that year's period, would be required to maintain it as far as keeping it boarded up, keeping the weeds cut down and things like that. Would those liens stack up? So each time we had to cut the weeds on it, it was real wet.
Yeah, so those liens would stack if the owner comes forward, but if the owner doesn't come forward, then it's our property anyway, so we're just taking care of our property.
But we'd be, based on what you just said, in the worst case scenario, where we just don't know where people are and we do this in rem process. Okay, we're looking at a year as opposed to right now, sometimes we're waiting up to 4 years while we wait on and the only reason we're recovering is because of property tax issues where we lose our rights.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a year once the proceeding is finished. So realistically, if 4 years is what we look at now, this would cut it in half probably, would be my guess. It depends on the judge we get to, frankly.
And that only assumes we cannot find the owner.
Yeah, well, if we proceed in rem. Proceeding in rem is always frowned upon by the court. But we have this really nice option when we genuinely can't find an owner to just sidestep the whole looking for them. I shouldn't say sidestep, but the court explicitly allows this type of thing.
But at that point, we can make the determination that this structure is still salvageable and try to get it in the hands of a developer or a contractor or something to rehab it. Or that decision may be made at that time. If the roof's been leaking for the whole period of time, it may be best to demo it and then get the property for redevelopment.
Right. And so I think if we know up from the very beginning that demoing has to happen, the current procedure is probably the way to stick with it. We know it.
Well, I would argue that at least two of them on here, the other one was full of trash, but two of them on today's were, I don't think those could be, well, one of them, maybe if you wanted to sink enough money into it, but the first of the burnt one,
Yeah, that's.
that one.
Yeah, like that one's gone. That one's, when it's truly beyond repair, I don't know that going through the process up front or behind becomes a public safety question, not really a legal one.
So I'm thinking it's faster if you know the owner, say the parents died, the kids are in California, they don't want the house or anything. You just say, what are you going to do? They said nothing. We just demo it then?
No. If they say nothing, what we would say is, what they're already doing now is, will you give us deed to the quit claim deed? So quit claim deeds though, and kind of as we discussed earlier.
Does that happen often?
Sometimes, yeah. Out of 4 demos that Toby did with this last batch that he gave me, I was able to contact 2, and those got deeded over to the city in lieu of payment on a lien.
Okay.
So we took in a couple of pieces now that we can take and put back out for development.
Yeah. And so the only thing about quit claim deeds that I don't love is, so nobody here bought a house on a quit claim, I bet. Right? You want a warranty deed. And so for us to turn around it, and so that's partly a nice thing. If we do go through a court procedure, we fully quiet the title. So I think depending on the particular developer's appetite for risk, a quit claim might not be what they want. And so that's another reason though why we might consider having a lawyer dedicated to property, that he can work on these claim issues, especially if we get properties that are on more valuable more valuable real pieces.
Do you want to add any?
No, the one piece of this, we met for 90 minutes this morning and went through all of this. The the process is, I said, it's working, it's just working too slow. And so what we're trying to do is work with Hess. I love his idea of having an on-staff attorney or someone,
Something.
either on staff or under contract that we can access, because it's these additional legal procedures that our staff is just not equipped to deal with. And we certainly don't want to mess anything up, because the last thing we want to do if we're trying to get properties back out of the market is to have a legal claim come up after, especially after the fact. We
Yeah.
sold it to somebody.
Yeah.
We don't want that. So yeah, we're following Hess's lead on all of this and taking good notes. But the one thing we have done is we have started moving forward, and Hess and Josh will be helping us with this as well, is we are putting together a letter or a list of qualified contractors, licensees and everything else that will start going out. Oh, there it is. Thank you. That will go out with the red tags and then go out with the notices, condemnation notices, letting people know that these are the people you should be calling, or these are some of the people you could call who could maybe help you, because will people take advantage of it? We don't know. People that were foreclosing on don't have any money anyway, and they don't seem to have any interest in repairing, but there may be a handful that just need a reference, need a referral, need somebody to say, here, go contact these folks.
I guess contractors aren't like attorneys and stuff, where they have CRA requirements.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, and I want to jump in on that. It's that I credit where it's due. Todd does a great job with being a staff of one on this. And if we were to get somebody who could help out with another part of getting the city to not have to be involved is, massaging the owners, even if they're out of town, to get them to want to do this.
Yeah, I would say from doing this for a number of years, the one piece that's really missing, we got bits and pieces here, but the one piece that's really missing from this entire operation is getting them properties back in the hands of a developer.
Yeah.
And not really having a good process. I mean, a list of all of a number of years ago, us having our own real estate sign or contract with a realtor or something, but have all our properties that we actually have for sale out there listed. And I don't think we've made it there yet. Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, but
When's this going
I think
on?
if people comes in and inquire about it, we can tell them what we have available potentially for sale.
Yeah,
But I think if we could get the properties we have out on the market.
because there's a lot of house flippers out there.
Yeah, there's a lot out there, and there's a lot of developers or builders that may want to pick, they like certain areas of town. I know there's one down south, and he's built a number of streets down there, and he really likes that area. They're all his homes he's built in there. So anything that comes available in there, I know he's interested in potentially purchasing that property. I think that's the piece that's really missing out of this. I know Councilor Arnold had some questions and comments about it, but this was just to get it on, try to get some ideas back from people so that staff can start putting together possible ideas or suggestions that we could maybe have a workshop and go over some of this.
So Madam Chair, to answer your question, this is going to go live once we have the other, there's got to be a legal component to this, because the online form, so the first form is basically the flyer that will be posted out on social media and in hardware stores and every place where we can stick them. There'll be a QR code that will link you to that second page that has the required fields of information. So we've got to be able to vet these folks and make sure that they have a business license with the city.
I was going to say, can you email the list of contractors that you have?
We
Register.
can, but this is kind of one other step that was added to us to say, okay, because I mean, if we print the entire list of available contractors, it's not going to fit in anything that we're going to send somebody.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is we have to vet this, plus there has to be some legal speak on the actual printed form itself that says that these contractors or professionals are basically a courtesy. It's just given as a courtesy because we want to be able to protect the city from any liability. Let's say somebody hires someone.
We don't endorse.
Well, you gave me a list and they charged me $500 and they never showed up, and now the city's liable because we gave them a list. So we have to be very careful about all of that, make sure that we have all the legal speak printed on the form as well, so that they have that. But once all of that is ironed out, and we have permission to go forward, then we'll make it live.
Okay. Christina, do you have anything you want to say?
No, come back, yesterday,
I'll
Okay,
go
yes.
ahead, if I can. Thank you, Madam Chair. At this point, no, I actually love everything you guys are talking about. I am grateful that you have been willing to actually kind of look at those areas that I thought were kind of concerning, and you've seemed to come up with some really solid solutions. So I think that as we progress forward, I will probably have more questions, but at this point, everything that has been mentioned sounds like a really good, productive move forward.
Anybody else? Thanks for doing all the work on this, guys.
My pleasure.
Any questions, Ms. Best?
No, sir. No, ma'am.
We will get some ideas together, some possible cost analysis,
Yeah, I'll look up with treasurer again.
maybe have something back by next month.
Yeah, maybe find some attorneys that specialize in. Okay, if there's nothing else, no, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody want to talk about the monthly reports?
I'm sure the reports are in your packet. If your staff is here, if you have any questions, hopefully the reports, monthly reports, or if you have any questions over any projects they have going on, they're available to answer any questions.
Our next meeting is December 13th, back to normal day. Thanks for coming. Any public participation? Any chatter? Thank you. Is there anyone on chat?
yeah.
Okay, seeing none, I guess we're adjourned then. Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Hope you feel better.
Me too. Thank you.
Very still on nights.
That's why it's asking us. I'm like.
That girl a lot? Hot mess.
She's so quite a few more, like all of hers were online. She didn't have anything to turn in.